from the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sylvia Sena here, and this is your 12 p.m. news update. The BCIT Student Association passed their 2022 budget at their council meeting yesterday with a pretty significant project deficit. Reporter Gurpreet Campbell has more. And now we're joining live with our reporter. Good afternoon, Gurpreet. Why is there such a big project deficit this year?
Well, their revenues are made up of student fees, which go up and down based on enrollment. That can be a challenge because they have some pretty big fixed costs like staff and rent, things that just have to get paid.
And how concerned should students be about this deficit?
It's not cause for alarm. Their main goal isn't profit, it's services and advocacy for its members. Council can consciously decide to take on debt to meet those other goals. This is something the federal government does on a regular basis. That said, students should pay attention to ensure those decisions are worthwhile and their money is being spent responsibly. Back to you, Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Gurpreet. And BC Health Minister Adrian Dix and Dr. Bonnie Henry will be providing an update on vaccinations at 12:30 this afternoon. Although there is no further information on what details they will provide, there may be more details about the second booster shot to residents under 70. Stay tuned for more updates since we will be bringing you more information about it later today. And Burnaby RCMP is still investigating the death of a 14-year-old girl after she was hit by a dump truck. According to authorities, they are still gathering evidences but already have a video footage that shows one view of the incident. Still, according to them, the driver stayed on the scene at the time and is helping with the investigation. Officials say they do not think speed or impairment were factors in the crash. And Victoria police are looking for witnesses after a man was reported being punched in the face by a stranger while walking near the ocean. Officials say it happened just after 7 p.m. Saturday on Dallas Road. According to them, the suspect is a Caucasian man between 25 to 30-year-old with a muscular, athletic build. The suspect was part of a group of 3 men and 3 women who were all last seen walking eastbound along Dallas Road towards Beacon Hill Park. And the Surrey Board of Trade sent a letter to TransLink asking the company to consider safety measures to protect women using public transit. The board said in order to ensure women remain part of the workforce, that transit needs must be taken into consideration. The board also said that it has heard first-hand incidents of harassment and fear from its members who use transit, and they believe that by improving safety, it will make riders feel at ease and boost their willingness to use transit. And now let's move on to our national news. The Manitoba government said they are putting up $1 million to help business recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. The money will be split between 4 groups that represent the hospitality, food and beverage, and supply chain industries. As a response, the Manitoba Hotel Association said they will use the money to recruit workers, since many employees left the field when the pandemic reduced travels and limited in-person events. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, aiming to make more people comfortable seeking the help they need. Reporter Vito Goucher sat down with a university student-athlete to discuss the challenges student-athletes deal with every day.
College athletes are under immense pressure to perform both in the classroom and in their sport, and that is why student-athletes often struggle with mental health. Lucas Green, a lacrosse player at Simon Fraser University, had his senior season cut short due to a concussion that impacted him on and off the field.
It was quite the accomplishment for our group, but for me personally it was frustrating because I really only played in 2 of those, including our playoffs, so 2 out of 6 games, which was certainly a frustrating experience with it being my last year.
Green wishes that there was more support made known to students to better maintain their mental and physical health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month with the aim to end the stigma around mental health. Victor Gaucher, 1680, The Crow.
And after military officials have warned that the North American defenses are outdated, Defense Minister Anita Anand said more details will come soon on how Canada and the U.S. will be improving it. Today, she gave an update on the government's ongoing defense policy review.
With a policy change of that magnitude, we are taking the time to get it right. And that's the way I do business, and that's the way our government does business, and that's what we will make sure occurs.
Anand also said that the government is taking a full and comprehensive look at ballistic missile defense, which Canada opted out of following a heated national debate in 2005. And Pfizer is starting to put its COVID-19 cash influx to use. The company is spending $11.6 billion to venture deeper into a new treatment area. According to an announcement made today, they will use cash on hand to buy the remaining portion of migraine treatment maker Biohaven that the company does not already own. And the head of the European Investment Bank said the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war with Russia ends is going to be a huge challenge. According to Elner Hoyers, the cost of rebuilding will probably be trillions of dollars.
Nobody can tell me what volumes we are talking about. I'm pretty sure we're talking not about billions, but about trillions when it comes to the full reconstruction of Ukraine. And this is a challenge for the entire world community.
Werner also said that unblocking Ukraine's seaports will be extremely important to fix the country's trade crisis, since they now have 8 billion euros worth of wheat that cannot be exported. And Juno Awards will return to Edmonton next year. The Canada's biggest music award show will be broadcast live from Rogers Place on March 12. And this is the second time the city has held the show. The last time Junos took place in Edmonton was in 2004, when Alanis Morissette was the host. Now let's move to our weather update. Today the sky was cloudy throughout the whole morning, but we might see the sun in the middle of the afternoon. However, there is still a slight chance it will rain in the evening. In more upset news ahead, we might not see the sun shining during the weekend with 9% chance of rain on Saturday. But that keeps our hopes up. I mean, we all know these predictions can change very fast in the city. And folks, this was your 12 p.m. news update. My name is Sylvia Sena, and you are listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Hello, my name is Marcus Pelzer, and here are your sports headlines to 12:10. In the WHL, the Vancouver Giants are back on home ice and will play the Kamloops Blazers. After losing 2, the Giants are looking to win for the first time since Game 6 of the first round. Blazers forward Logan Stankoven leads the team in points with 16, and the team hasn't lost a game yet. The NHL draft lottery for the 2022 draft is set for 3:30. Looking at the final standings for the NHL this season, Montreal will have the best odds to land the number 1 pick. Arizona will have the second best odds, and the Kraken will have the third. The Canucks and the Knights have the worst chances of moving up in the draft with just a 0.5% chance. Now on the ice with the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Carolina Hurricanes are hosting the Boston Bruins tonight. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Lightning are back in Toronto to face off against the Maple Leafs. Leafs forward Mitch Marner says it has been awkward to get into the flow of a game.
Well, I think it's been a little weird to kind of get a feel for rhythm in some games with the penalties taken. A lot of penalty minutes, a lot of teams on penalty killing or power playing. So I think that can change things. But for us, just making sure, when we're 5-on-5, we're just staying that way, staying the way we can play.
Coming in at 6:30, the Blues are in to take on the Wild. Wild coach Dean Evison is excited to be back in front of the fans.
Our fans have been fantastic, and we expect nothing different here tonight. The energy will be there in the building. The energy will be with both teams, clearly. The situation that we're both in, it's been a great series. It's going to continue to do that.
And lastly, the Edmonton Oilers and Los Angeles Kings play in a pivotal Game 5. In NHL history, the teams who win Game 5 hold a 259-58 record in a best-of-7. Sharks legend Patrick Marleau has now officially retired from the NHL. The 42-year-old played for 3 different NHL teams throughout his 23-year career. Marleau played for the Sharks for 21 seasons, playing 1,607 games, while accruing 1,111 points with the team. He has also played for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Pittsburgh Penguins. The NBA playoffs continue tonight with 2 Game 5s. Jimmy Butler and the Heat are looking to avoid losing 3 straight tonight as they host the Sixers in Miami. They're going to need to do that without their starting point guard in Kyle Lowry. He has been ruled out tonight due to an injury. Luka Doncic will try and lead the Mavericks to a 3-2 series lead over the Suns. The 23-year-old has high praise for the opposing point guard, Chris Paul.
It's big time, man. He's one of the best point guards this league ever had. His mentality is insane, the way he sees the court, his IQ is amazing. So I think it was big time, he was in foul trouble and we went trying to get after him.
Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Now time for baseball. The Blue Jays are back and will face off against the best team in the MLB, the New York Yankees. The Yankees are second in the league for team ERA with 2.5 and are 5th in the league in OPS. Meanwhile, the Jays sit in the middle of the pack for both of those categories. Reigning Cy Young winner Robbie Ray will take the mound tonight to face off against the Phillies. Ray, in 6 starts, has a 4.38 ERA with a 2-3 record. The lefty pitcher has worked 37 innings this season. The Mariners are hoping to bounce back as they have only won 2 of their last 10. Denis Shapovalov has beaten Nicolas Basilashvili in the second round of the Italian Open. He has now advanced to the round of 16 in the tournament. Shapovalov will face the winner of Wednesday's match between Rafael Nadal and John Isner. Bianca Andreescu won her match against Emma Raducanu in a walkover. And 8th-ranked Felix Auger-Aliassime defeated Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in 3 sets and moves on to the round of 16. Tom Brady will be an NFL analyst for Fox Sports after he retires from the NFL. The deal is reported to be $375 million for 10 years. This would make him the highest-paid analyst of all time. There will be no charges pressed against former boxer Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was seen punching an airplane passenger last month in San Francisco. The San Mateo County District Attorney's Office says that the case is closed. Tyson and the victim both requested that charges will not be held. Thank you so much for listening to your sports news. I'm Marcus Pelzer, 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello, I'm Victor Gaucher, and you're listening to For the Record on 1680 The Crow. Today, my guest on The Crow is Lucas Green, a lacrosse player and criminology student at Simon Fraser University. Lucas had a tough senior lacrosse season, battling a concussion that forced him on the sidelines for what would have been his last home game atop Burnaby Mountain. As May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have recently heard of a number of athletes taking a step back from competition, we look to examine what athletes face and begin to discuss what resources are available for any student athletes that may be struggling. So Lucas, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Good. So right off the bat, Lucas, why is being a student athlete so challenging?
I'd say it's most challenging because you're adding on a lot of time commitment into an already stressful scenario of trying to get good grades. It's one thing if you are an athlete that is there simply to compete and you're just trying to get the grades to skate by and maintain your eligibility. But if you're someone who is a bit of an overachiever or somebody who does care about their schooling more so than others, then the time commitment that it adds being an athlete to an already stressful situation of trying to perform well in school, it can certainly add a lot of stress for sure.
Absolutely. So just how big of a time commitment is lacrosse? How much time are you spending on the field?
We practice 6 hours a week, and then you have your workouts and any other associated kind of medical or physiotherapy appointments, rehab that you have to do on any injuries, injury prevention stuff that is a little bit more time consuming than simply just being in the gym for performance. And then when we're traveling, it's a lot of the additional time commitment when we're in season rather than simply training. We go on 18-hour bus rides overnight. I think over our kind of yearly week-long trip where we play 3 games in a span of 6 days or so, we probably spend 48 hours or so on a bus of those 6 days, where it's certainly inopportune to even try to do schoolwork. So I'd say on average you're probably sitting at 10 to 15 hours a week, but certainly in season when you add traveling and meetings, going over opponents' own systems and other game preparations, you're probably looking at more around 20.
Right, and you mentioned the bus rides. Those are some crazy long trips, and that's because your team in particular is not varsity, right? So you're ineligible for a scholarship, and you have to pay to play, right?
Yeah, our league is essentially encompassed by a lot of Division 1 teams that they don't have the budget to fund varsity lacrosse, and that would be SFU included. So our players, we do play, and we do pay, and our opponents are mainly Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, and then we'll also travel and play teams like Brigham Young, University of Cal, Santa Clara, a lot of these bigger schools that simply just don't have the budget to include lacrosse within their varsity funding.
Right. So where some varsity teams would have the the finances to fly to games, your team has to spend a lot of time on a bus. That must really make it difficult to study. But also, you received a concussion this semester, right? So, just how hard was that to study when you were finally able to study again after your concussion? You were forced to study on a bus?
Yeah, I'd say studying on the bus is certainly futile. The chances you get stuff done while on the road with 25 other guys is definitely low. Movies are being played, cards are being played. It can be a busy environment where it's hard to focus. Add in concussion where your ability to your capacity to simply study is very low. Concentration is low. Visually, you can get a lot of kind of splotchiness on screen, headaches. Sleeping can be tough, so quite often you're tired. It's a lot of resting and not a lot of ability to do much, both athletically and scholastically. So concussions are definitely its own beast, and everyone's experiences with them are different. Seeing this as this was my fourth, I believe, it was certainly more of a challenge than I remember the last one being. But at the same time, it kind of comes with the territory.
Do you think this one was more challenging because this was your senior season and this kind of is it for you in terms of playing lacrosse?
Of course, I felt very. I feel like robbed would be the good way to put it. Because of COVID, the school wouldn't let us travel, despite us trying to adhere to all protocols as best we could. And even at points when we believed we were going to be able to travel, the school continued to not let us travel. So our season went from something spread out over the course of about 6 weeks with, I think, 9 or 10 games to we found ourselves only playing our conference schedule, which ended up being a 5-game stretch in a 9-day window, which if you're asking a small roster of about 20 guys to have 5 games in 9 days and produce the season that we did, it was quite the accomplishment for our group. But for me personally, it was frustrating because I really only played in 2 of those, including our playoffs. So 2 out of 6 games, which was certainly a frustrating experience, with it being my last year. But I guess better than nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely better than nothing. If you're just tuning in now, I'm your host, Victor Gaucher, with my guest, Lucas Green, and you're listening to For the Record on 1680 The Crow. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are looking at the challenges student athletes face every day. So, Lucas, let's give our listeners a little history on yourself. How long have you been playing lacrosse?
Since I was 5, so it's been 18 years.
And how long have you been playing at SFU?
My first year started in the fall of 2016, and thanks to stretching out a couple courses and wanting to improve a few grades, I was able to play this season.
Yeah, you were able to play that season, so that must have felt good. But your season that was crunched into a very condensed time frame, full of long bus rides. Was the fact that your team is non-varsity, does that make it a bit tougher?
Certainly, we don't have something we used to have was access to both the athletic weight room at SFU and physiotherapy. And for next to no reason that was taken away from us after my second year, and that was a frustrating development for a lot of the guys on the team because we're already paying to play. We're it is a sport that is a lot more physical than the average varsity sport. Injuries are plentiful, and that lack of support from the school after my second year was certainly a frustrating development, and one that has impacted our program's ability to recruit, and incurred an additional cost on top of our already team funds to play, because guys, if they get injured now, they have to go out of pocket to get treatment, and just to be able to make the $4,000 that we pay to play worthwhile. It's tough when I'm lucky to have help from my parents in terms of paying for those team funds, but I know several guys in our team that they pay that $4,000 out of their own pocket, and when you get that school support taken away, it's for little to no explanation or communication on their end. It's very frustrating for the guys that are trying to play the sport they love, get a good education at SFU, rather than go down to the States and get a subpar education and have to pay more money when you look at conversion rates and flights and all that. It's certainly frustrating.
Right.
So it was a little bit easier on my end, but I know there's not to speak for anyone else on the team, but I know guys have been frustrated.
So yeah, you say that SFU kind of took away the best resources for you, and adding on the stress of the financial aspect, the time commitments, the crazy travel hours, that can easily take a toll on someone's mental health. Were there resources for your team available in terms of seeking help in case of any mental health struggles?
I know, from what I know, it's just kind of the basic free counseling options that SFU kind of offers to anybody. But in terms of anything additional, certainly not something I'd say any of us are aware of.
That's unfortunate, because you'd think a school would want to help their students and of course their athletes, whether they're varsity or not, become the best versions of themselves.
I'd say it's frustrating at best, for sure.
Well, you've done great to make it to this point, get through your seasons of lacrosse, get through your semesters at school. When you look back at the time you first arrived at SFU and to where you are now, you must hold your head high, saying that you made it through some less than ideal circumstances.
Yeah, sure. You add in COVID as well, and it's been a long journey to get to this point, and to see it come through and kind of finish off is bittersweet. But certainly it's something to be proud of, and it's an achievement.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on your upcoming graduation. I look forward to seeing what you do next, and thank you for joining us today.
Much appreciated. Thank you for the very good interview.
Of course, I really appreciate your time. I'm your host, Victor Gaucher, and this has been For the Record on 1680 The Crow.
started to build the mountain bike trails. I'm Ryan McIsaac. I started the kind of mountain bike end of things up on Thornhill and started building trails up there approximately 14 years ago, and have since built 6 trails up there total, and it has developed into just a riding destination.
As I sat down in Ryan's garage with Lee and himself, I was offered a beer. I was also warned not to put this beer on the ground.
He'll tip it and drink it. That's his thing.
Yeah, he's got a drinking problem, my dog. That on top of my bag right there. It's a coaster we can put in the tree to keep it out of his reach.
When you go up to Thornhill, you won't just see coasters high up in the trees. You'll see hikers, dog walkers, horseback riders. Another thing you'll see is a bunch of brand new signs that have been posted up by the city.
So the city started to have some issues. They started to remove some of the tools that we had stashed in areas. We had a few kind of run-ins with them. Nothing really negative, but right off the start, we were honest with them, what we were doing and, why we were doing it. And that's kind of when I got involved with the FEMBA, because the city didn't want to deal with just a trail builder. The city wanted to deal with an association.
My name's Lee Hughes. I'm the area rep for the Fraser Valley Mountain Bike Association. I probably met Ryan about 5 years ago, I guess, on the trail, riding my bike, and just dropped my bike and started helping them, and then they asked me to come out and help them after that. So cool. I've helped with this, negotiating with the city on a bunch of things, and hopefully things are just going to get closer and closer to getting the trails approved, and we won't have to worry about them going anywhere soon.
Do you take everything with you every time, or do you usually know what you need before you go?
Typically, I take this bundle with me, the 2 shovels, the bow rake, and the comb rake, and I bring my pack with either a chainsaw or a sawzall. And that's typically what I use for building. If I know I'm going to be specific on building a bridge, I bring my hatchet, hammer.
Ryan is climbing up Thornhill with sometimes 60 pounds of gear in the rain. And you gotta ask, why is he doing all of this for free?
It's just passion. I love to mountain bike, and I want to mountain bike something and ride something that I know is in top-notch condition at all times. And I, even though I'm building it for the masses, I guess you could say, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it sounds selfish, I am building it for myself, I'm designing it because, okay, I want this turn to feel like this, and I want to set that to set me up for this, and then that is going to set me up for this. It's just a passion. I mean, I can't even tell you the thousands of hours of work that I put up in there. And it's just ultimately for that, for us to ride, to enjoy. And I mean, it's fantastic. The community's enjoying it, and people from outside the area. And it's a lot of fun.
It seems that the only way Ryan's going to legitimize his dreams is to continue building his relationship with the city. This has been Riley Lyons and Chattis Leo for 1680 The Crow.
At the corner of Burrard and Comox in downtown Vancouver sits St. Paul's Hospital, one of the busiest healthcare facilities in the Lower Mainland. And over the last 3 decades here, Allie Hartwick has seen it all.
Hi, I'm Allie Hartwick, and I work at St. Paul's in Vancouver, and I'm an emergency nurse. I've been a nurse for 30 years. I qualified in 92, and 6 months after my qualification, I went into emergency medicine. It's my passion. It's my love. I love not knowing what's coming through the door. I love saving people's lives. I love being at the beginning of their lives, at the end of their lives, in the middle of their lives, at the most stressful, most challenging times of their lives.
Allie began her career expecting to be an emergency room nurse forever, but her own ambitions took her much farther.
I started in emergency. I never thought I wanted to go any further. I was always a bedside nurse, always wanted to have my hands on patients. And then it got to the point where I felt like I'd seen everything, done everything. So I went into a charge nurse position, and I've been there for 10 years. It's more like you're the puppet master. So you're dictating the flow of the department. You're putting people where they have their expertise in their proper places. You're watching the junior nurses grow. You're helping mentor them, and just having more of an overhead view of things. Well, then COVID hit, and I was okay with it for a while, but then it became, I don't know, I'm too old to be in a full PPE. And I was like, I'm done with this. So I moved up. I never thought I would be moving up. And I moved up and started working in access and flow. So I work in an office, and you're more of a management throughout the whole hospital. So you're supporting even more junior nurses who are freshly qualified, looking after so many patients. They're so short-staffed.
Hartwick didn't get the same formal training that all nursing students get today, but her dedication and joy for what she does gives her a unique perspective.
But it is a 24/7 job, and you need to get in there and get dirty, and everybody's coping skills are different, and some people can cope with suicide and birth and trauma, and other people can't. And that's the love of emergency medicine. I feel I thrive in that I don't know, what's going on, and I love it. Nursing, I've always said, is a vocation. It's not an education. You learn from seeing. I learn from seeing. I don't learn from a book. You can't tell from a book when somebody's having a heart attack in front of your face. You can see it and know that they're acutely unwell. I can read about it and know what's happening, but if I look at it, I can tell you right now that person is more acute than this person, and that's a gut feeling. I feel from my gut.
And while some might look at healthcare as a grim line of work, Hartwick feels fortunate for the chances she's gotten and the ways she's been able to come out of it with a smile.
I've had a lot of fun in my career. I've seen a lot of places. As I say, I did my training in England. I came over here. I think that's helped me. I don't think I have any PTSD with anything I've seen, and I've seen plenty. But I've had fun, and an emergency nurse's humor is a dark humor, and we have a laugh. Not at people's expenses. We have a laugh because we need to relax and make it normal, because we see some whack things.
For Amelia Fincham, I'm Lachlan Irvin, 1680 The Crow.
As COVID restrictions are slowly fading away, the Coquitlam Dodgeball League prepares for opening night of their 27th season, the first full season since COVID started.
When most people are looking for a recreational sports league to join, they think of hockey, basketball, or maybe soccer. However, this group of people have found their passion for dodgeball. The Coquitlam Dodgeball League, or CDL, was founded in 2007 and started with 16 teams. Now, it's made up of 40 teams with over 350 players. One player, Rob Gerard, has been playing in the CDL since it first began and is the only player to play every single year. 15 years later, he still plays, but is also the league director, which means he focuses on day-to-day tasks as well as launching every season. Rob doesn't make any money off the league. In fact, sometimes it's difficult to balance time between his job, family, and the CDL. He does this because he's passionate about the league and bringing people together.
I'm the only person that has played every season of the CDL. I've been a part of every single season, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of Wednesday nights that I've missed.
When asked how Rob got into dodgeball in his adult life, he said that it started on a whim.
and they were just three 20-something-year-old kids, and they got started on the Coquitlam Dodgeball League. And I got a call saying, "Do you want to play dodgeball?" And I thought that sounded like it could be something kind of fun to kill my time on a Wednesday night. I didn't realize that it was going to result in 15 years of work, but here we are.
Rob also explains the most difficult task of being the league director.
It's launching the season, no question. I'd say 90% of the work I do happens before the season starts. It's arranging gym rental contracts, ensuring that we have insurance. More recently, it's been making sure that we are in alignment with provincial health orders.
COVID added another layer of difficulty to Rob's job.
The pulse of the league wasn't a positive one at that time. People weren't too enthusiastic to expand their bubbles with people that they didn't really know very well.
We joined the CDL at Rochester Elementary in Coquitlam for their first opening night since the pandemic started. We were instantly met with warm welcomes and could feel the excitement and energy in the gym. Shortly after, league staff members jumped on stage to give everyone a reminder of the rules and regulations of the CDL.
Infraction happens at the end of the night, we will not be able to play the following week. Let's avoid that and not throw at each other's faces. Okay, cool. Let's play some dodgeball.
One of those rules and regulations is called a showdown.
Teams, there's a 10-second count. And if both players are still alive at the end of that 10-second count, we go to a showdown. And a showdown is one ball on each side of the middle, and each player gets two. And there are no lines. There's no line boundaries. So it's just an absolute free-for-all, winner takes all. I was part of the CDL's very first showdown, and it was against a 7-year-old girl. Somebody brought their daughter to watch, and she wanted to play a game, and I couldn't bring myself to throw as hard as I could at this girl, so I was like, okay, I'll go to a showdown. And once the showdown started, the second I started walking towards her, she just dropped the balls and ran towards her mom, and I felt awful. I felt so bad. This little girl was so intimidated.
After that, the games got underway, and we were lucky enough to catch up with league founder Darren Domingo. Darren tells us what inspired him to create the CDL.
Actually, the real reason that we started the league here was because there wasn't, we couldn't play on the day that they were holding it anymore in Vancouver, so we decided to play it on Wednesdays in Coquitlam, and we started our own thing.
This season brought one entirely new team to the league, the Crusaders. One member of the team had just moved from Ontario to British Columbia. He said that finding new friends has been his biggest challenge since the move. Hoping to change that, he joined the CDL to meet new people in his new home. The Coquitlam Dodgeball League is also an active participant in the local community. They both host and contribute to a variety of local events that benefit organizations such as Canada Cancer Society, SHARE, and the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. They even dedicated a special tournament to honor the passing of Amanda Todd, whose brother is a part of the league. Rob explains that emotional moment.
We hosted the first annual Amanda Todd Legacy Tournament, and we raised a bunch of money. Amanda's mom was there. She said some words, and then we played the tournament, and it ended pretty poetically, actually. Amanda's brother plays in our league, and his team, although they were huge long shots, they ended up winning the entire thing.
The Coquitlam Dodgeball League looks to continue to make an impact on their community by bringing people together and hosting charity events. My name is Kyle Collis with Evan Tate, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
from the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. My name is Seamus Page with your 1 p.m. news and sports update. Dr. Bonnie Henry noted today that 94% of healthcare workers have been fully vaccinated against COVID. She has also stated that they are working on making sure people are informed about their healthcare provider so that they can make a decision properly. The numbers aren't final yet, as the group is so large that it is taking time for them to get their final numbers. BC poultry farmers are implementing quarantine measures to protect their chickens from the spread of avian flu across Canada. As of right now, a total of 1.7 million birds have been euthanized or killed by the flu in Canada. People across BC have been encouraged to take down bird baths and bird feeders to combat the spread. Protesters arrived in downtown Vancouver early this morning to oppose a conference about the gas industry and liquefied natural gas. Advocates posted anti-fracking statements on the walls of the Vancouver Convention Centre between 4 and 6 a.m., the same location that the conference will be held. BC Energy Minister Bruce Ralston faced protesters as he arrived, but was able to make his statement. Former Premier Christy Clark is also slated to speak on Thursday. Protesters say that while companies claim that LNG is a way to reduce carbon emissions, the fracking required to extract it is mainly responsible for BC's methane emissions. The search for a young Saskatoon boy, Frank Young, is entering its fourth week, leaving many from the community frustrated. Sergeant Richard Tung does not know when the search will end, but it is being evaluated daily. They are currently focusing their efforts on Carrot River and are using a helicopter every other day to fly over it. Advocates are calling for an Indigenous alert system to help those who don't fit the criteria for Amber Alerts, like Frank did. Prince Albert Grand Council Chief Brian Hardlett shared his thoughts on the situation.
And that's only a human nature that happens to us. The frustrations that's there. That we want to find the person that's lost, in this case, young Frank.
This morning, a woman told a Toronto court that Canadian musician Jacob Hogarth choked her hard enough to make her fear for her life as he sexually assaulted her 5 years ago. She is the second woman to testify in Hogarth's sexual assault trial. While on the stand, she teared up, detailing the type of abuse that she faced from Hogarth that night, explaining that she feared she'd die without anyone knowing where she was. Hogarth has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of sexual assault causing bodily harm and to the charge of sexual interference. NDP caucus chair Jenny Kwan says she is trying to find out what happened to the applications of Afghans who aided the Canadian military as interpreters. There are 2,900 applicants who are currently waiting on their approval. Kwan demands that Immigration Minister Sean Fraser explain why they haven't been approved. Their credentials have all been checked and verified by the Canadian military. She says that the Taliban is hunting interpreters and their families, and that their documents to go to Canada will help protect them. Ukrainian officials say that the Russian assault on the strategically important port of Odessa has left it heavily damaged. The attack seems to be an attempt to disrupt supply lines and weapon shipments to aid Ukraine in its defense of Kyiv. Russia is now 11 weeks into its invasion of Ukraine, and Kyiv has been vital to slowing down Russian efforts. Charles de Ledesma has more on the attack.
Ukraine's vital Black Sea port of Odessa came under repeated missile attack on Monday night, including from some hypersonic missiles. The Ukrainian military says Russian forces fired 7 missiles from the air at the city, hitting a shopping centre and a warehouse. Officials say 1 person was killed and at least 5 were wounded. The strikes come after Russian President Vladimir Putin marked his country's biggest patriotic holiday without giving new information about the war in Ukraine. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And now, on to our sports update. The Vancouver Giants continue their playoff series against the Kamloops Blazers tonight. After 2 losses, the Giants are hoping to bounce back and get their first win. The puck drops tonight at 7 p.m. at the Langley Event Center. The NHL playoffs will also continue tonight, and everyone is trying to break a tie in their respective series. In the East, the Bruins are set to take on the Hurricanes, while Leafs will be taking on the Lightning. In the West, Blues are set to take on the Wild, and LA Kings will be facing off against the Edmonton Oilers. For your weather, it is currently 11 degrees and mostly cloudy.
Temperatures for today are set to be a high of 12 with a low of 11. It is set to be mostly cloudy with a chance of showers tonight. This has been your afternoon news and sports update. I'm Seamus Page with 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.